Good morning, everybody. Hope you had a good weekend. We had a glorious weekend here. Hope you guys did as well. So this is our Monday morning call. The best time to ask questions, talk about concerns you have. If you have any hurdles, now is a great time to talk about them, because anything problem you're having, other people have had it, and to discuss it as a group and fix it right here in Monday morning call would be a great thing for everybody. If you got things going really well, or if you had a very a success, let us know that as well. You can either type those in, or if you're on a headset and want to be just talk on the phone with me here, go ahead and raise your hand, and Missy will open your line. So with that said, we will go ahead and get started, and then Missy, you just interrupt me if we see any questions.
I sure will.
Super. So guys, what's this picture of, right? Not right here, almost. What's this a picture of, guys? What does it represent in our business? What does that represent in our business? Come on, guys, what's that represent? It's a black swan, but what's a black swan? Unusual events, Rick, thank you. Unusual events. It's a black swan, things that cannot be planned for. So I think 2 or 3 weeks ago, we talked about the new risks in the market. The first one is the emergence of new financial capitalism, which basically we talked about the fact that a very small slice of the population, not the top 1%, but the top 1% of the 1%, own the vast majority of assets. In fact, it's never been so lopsided since the time of the robber barons, believe it or not. So we talked about the problems with that. We talked about the rise of speculation, decline of investing, the fact that turnover ratio is now up to 215%, which is double what it was just like 15 years ago. The increase of derivatives, the fact that there are 20 times the GDP of the entire world in derivatives right now, and any small step can cause us to collapse. And actually, that is 20 times. That's actually almost double what it was just 5 years ago, when the derivatives and the credit bond swaps caused the problems that they caused in 2007. We talked about shadow banking and the lack of transparency, and we talked about the problem of too big to fail. But just read another article that talked about some other problems we had not talked about, so let's talk about those. And in fact, in last summer, we had robot stock trades lose $440 million in 45 minutes. That was a year ago, or about 10 months ago. 10 months ago. So obviously, when that happened, a lot of people who had trailing stop losses, etc., got killed on that, didn't they? I mean, there are some people that took an 80% loss on their stock when that happened, because they had the stop losses in. And that's, when you have automatic stop losses, those traders, if the market spikes low, you're taken out at that lower rate. So obviously, when that happened, we realized that was a problem, so we fixed it, didn't we? Did we fix the problem with robot trading, guys? Did we fix it? What happened last week, guys? Yeah, Dale, what happened last week? Guys, what happened last week? You should all be very, very versed on this. Did we have another robotic trading when somebody Twitter hack of AP? Exactly right, Rick. Big drop. So, have we fixed that problem, guys? Apparently not. So there's a problem we hadn't talked about with these. So there's another problem with the markets. Anybody watch this 60 Minutes special? What is this right here? See all these buildings? What's special about all these buildings? Anybody that watched 60 Minutes? It was about a month ago or so. What's so special about all of these buildings? These sky rises back there. China's empty, Casey. Exactly right. China is empty. See all these buildings? These are all 100% empty. Do you see any cars on this highway? No cars. These buildings are 100% empty. And in fact, there are dozens and dozens of cities across China just like this. Did you realize that? You should Google or YouTube this 60 Minutes episode and watch it. These are all empty. And there's cities and cities like this out. And I think they said they're building 6 new cities like this a year. Complete cities like this a year that are empty. Now, why are they doing that? It's because the Chinese people, there's a lot of wealth being created there, right? But the Chinese people, the interest rate there is 0. So they can't earn any interest in the bank. They don't trust the stock market because it's up and down and all around. In fact, it's down quite a bit this year. So all of them are putting their money into, I'm not sure, Dale, what the date of the broadcast was. It was the last month or so. Casey, do you remember what it was? Or Missy, maybe you can Google that while we're doing this, because Dale's wondering what was the date of the broadcast.
Yep, I sure will.
So everybody in China is putting their money into Real estate, because real estate goes up 10, 12, 13% a year. Does that sound familiar, guys? They're putting their money into real estate because, hey, they're buying all these places because that real estate keeps going up 10, 12, 13%. Well, guys, if they've got dozens of empty cities already, they're building another 6 or so a year, why is the real estate still going up then? Is it because of demand? No. Essentially what's happening is the Chinese government is artificially keeping the prices of this real estate up. But how long can they do that before what happens, guys? Now, a crash. Exactly right, Dale, a crash. So how big an economy is China right now? If China crashed, would it affect the rest of the world, do you think? And guys, when there's dozens of these empty cities already, and they're building at least a half dozen more every year, it's only a matter of time. Can this sustain? No. So when this crashes, it's going to affect the world big time. So you're talking to your clients about that. Well, in fact, Dale, this is not too big to fail. Guys, with this, is it too big to fail? With this real estate, if they're building huge cities, 6 a year, is that too big to fail? No. Because when the real estate, when people realize they've built so many cities, so many empty, when there's as many empty cities as there are real cities, it's just that it's not too big to fail. When this goes down, there's nobody that could anybody step in to help China if that happens. Could anybody step in to help China when it goes under? And then we haven't talked about this either, which we should have last time we talked about it. Cataclysmic events. Guys, we just saw one, a very, very tiny one, with the Boston Marathon. But what happens if there's a big terrorist attack? What happens if there's an earthquake in California? What happens if there's, guys, cataclysmic, what if there's a sunspot that knocks out communications for 2 weeks? What if there's a blackout? If you don't realize this, I don't know if you've seen the report last week. A report that was done by the General Accounting Office, so, they have no bone to pick. They looked at the United States infrastructure. What grade did they give the United States infrastructure? And they grade from A, just like in school, A is superior and F is failing. What grade did they give the United States infrastructure, guys? Any ideas? Well, Casey says F. It was actually a D plus, up from a D last year. In fact, you know how many of the bridges in the United States, 87% of them were graded a D. 87% were graded a D. So our infrastructure, our electrical infrastructure, and everything else is extremely old. It wouldn't take much to knock out the whole 1/3 of the United States of electrical power. If that's happened, what do you think would happen to the market? So those are the things that we haven't even talked about. So we talked about the emergence of new financialized capitalism, the fact that a very, very small group of people have a lot of money, and they're not risking their money, they're risking ours, the rise of speculation and decline of investing, the increase of derivatives, 20 times the amount of derivatives in the world than there are total GDP of the world, shadow banking and lack of transparency, and the problem too big to fail. And then we got this robot trading occurring. We got this huge problem looming in China. And guys, if you've not read the books about bubbles, you need to read a book about bubbles. And if I can't, I'm looking on my shelf to see if I can see. I've got like 3 of them. But bubbles, have been happening since the Dutch tulip bubble back in the 1700s. And it will continue to happen. This is not, when this goes, it's going to be bad. And then we've got cataclysmic events that we have no control over whatsoever. So those are all things that mean that we should be aggressive in the marketplace, or we darn well better have our clients at least half of their money out of the market. Okay? So that's my little pointer of the day. Now, to get into the topic, so we're going into a whole different topic. We're going to talk about marketing now. So that was my little soapbox about not being 100% in the market, or in my opinion, you should be very little in the market. I personally am very little in the market. So what is the perfect transaction? So we'll talk about marketing. What is the perfect transaction, guys? Well, I would say the perfect transaction, well, let me see here. I've gotten some questions here. So what is the perfect transaction? Well, first of all, we would like big tickets or small tickets. We'd rather have big tickets. We want the money we're moving to have surrender charges or not to have surrender charges? Well, we don't want them to have surrender charges. Do we want another advisor involved, or would we prefer to find money that the client brings to us and there's no other advisor involved, but they're not do-it-yourselfers? So let me clarify. They are not do-it-yourselfers, and they have no other advisor involved. And do we want it where the client wants to stay where they're at, or the client is already half convinced they should move from where they're at? So that is, guys, can we admit that's the perfect transaction right there? How would you like to find one of those every day? Big ticket, no surrender charge, no other advisor to fight against, and the client doesn't want to stay where they're at. So what am I describing, guys? Tell me what ticket I'm describing here. What kind of transaction am I describing? Let's see if anybody can get it. What kind of transaction has all? 401k rollover, Kevin, absolutely. 401k rollover, absolutely right. So we would love to do 401k rollovers. The problem is it's hard to find out when people are doing those, retiring or find those people who are prime prospects for our 401k rollovers. But there is an easy way to get at 401k rollovers, because if you get in front of the right people at the right place at the right time, it becomes very, very easy. So let's talk about the right people. Who are the right people? And talk about the right place. Where's the right place? And let's talk about the right time. So who do you want to get in front of? Who do you want to get in front of? Would you rather get in front of somebody who loves their company or somebody who's disgusted with their company? Which one? Loves their company or is disgusted with their company? Which one do you think? Disgusted, exactly, Eric. Because if they're disgusted with their company, what do they want to do? You know, if the company's been treating all their employees badly, if they've been laying people off, if they've been shutting down stores, if they've been if they feel like they're under attack, the employees feel like they're under attack, and they're disgusted with the company, when they leave, there's not really a lot they can do, right? So what do they want to do? Yeah, they want to move their money out, Kevin, right? They want to cut ties, Rick, they're right. So the only way they can figure out how to get back at their company is to move their money out of the 401k. Now, again, it doesn't really affect the company. The company doesn't care, but really it's the only way the employee knows how to put a stick in the employer's eye. So they want to move that money from the 401k because they don't like the company. But here's the other thing. How would you like it if they, maybe they have a fantastic 401k. Do you want them to have a fantastic 401k, or would you rather have them say, I hate my 401k, it's lousy and I can't wait to move that? So now, what if we had an employee who hated their company and hated their 401k? How would that be, guys? That be good or kind of good or unbelievably great? Be unbelievably great, right? And when do we want to get in front of them? Do we want to get in front of people 5 years before they retire? As soon as possible, Dale says. I agree with that. Yes, Eric says just before, because we don't want to get in front of them 5 years before they retire, because if we wait till we get into them 5 years before retire, and I've heard guys promote this, that's crazy, because you're going to bust your hump for these people, and there's really no money to be had until they retire. So we say, if I get in there 5 years before, I'm going to really, really do a great job for them. I'm going to really make them love me, so then when they retire, they'll move the 401k to me. Well, then what ends up happening? They go to some seminar the week they retire, and boom, all the money moves to this other guy, even though you've been taking care of him for 5 years. And they say, oh, I didn't know you could do that, or something like that. We've all had those kind of happenings before. So I don't want to get in front of them 5 years before, because you know what? I'm going to do a lot of work for no money, and there's no guarantee I'm going to get them when they actually retire. So I don't want to work with them 5 years before. I certainly don't want to work with them 5 years after they retire, because somebody else has already got to them first, and they've moved all that money, and now we do have surrender charges, and we do have another advisor to fight. So as Eric says, I want to get in front of them right before they retire, or the month they retire. That's when I want to get in front of them. Now, do you want to get in front of or become an expert in a small company, or would you rather become an expert and get in front of the employees of a large company? Well, obviously a large company, because there's going to be a lot more employees. So here's the company I want to get in front of, a company that has 571,000 employees, the second biggest employer in the United States. That's who I want to get in front of. And more importantly, this company has laid off 161,000 workers in the last 6 years. And the plan is right now to lay off an additional 8,000 each year going forward. So laid off 161,000 in the last 6 years. That's 28,000 per year. And they plan to lay off at least another 8,000 per year going forward. So do you think the employees of this company are happy? Do you think they feel threatened? Do you think they feel appreciated? Do you think that, guys, these employees are not happy right now? And in fact, this company, most of the experts out there right now are saying they don't know if this company will be around 3, 4, 5 years from now. There's a high likelihood this company will be gone 3, 4, 5 years from now. Waiting for the knife to fall on them, Eric says. Exactly right. Now, so my question is this. If that company, think about this. If that company goes under 3, 4, or 5 years from now, and you were an expert because you'd been helping lots of employees that have been forced out, or employees that took early retirement just to get away from the toxic environment they were in, if you'd worked with a lot of those people over the next 2 or 3 years, and then the company went under, so that the remainder of the 400,000 or 500,000 all left at the same time, how would that be for you? Because if you were already an expert on that company and worked with tons of those employees already, and then they decide all of those employees are going to go away, what do you just put yourself in front of? You're going to sit in your office all day long and do what? Take IRA rollover apps. IRA, you won't even have to, you just sit in your office and take appointment after appointment after appointment with IRA rollover apps. Guys, how many years before you could retire if you experience that? I'll give you an example. One of the guys I knew back, 20 years ago, worked was an independent financial planner, and his sister-in-law was a human resources person at a company called Menards here in the Midwest. So Menards is kind of like a regional Home Depot or regional Lowe's. So there's probably, I don't know, I think they have 35 big stores or something like that, or maybe 50 big stores around the Midwest. And they decided to change their pension plan. So this guy, because his sister-in-law got him in front of, I think, about a dozen guys, and he rolled their pension plan, and then those guys referred him to more, and those guys referred him to more. 2 years later, the guy had made $2 million, and he basically walked away from the industry. Oh, $2 million. What am I saying? $2 million a year. He actually made $4 million and walked away from the industry in 2 years because of that. And the great thing about companies like this is they are highly networked, because there's something about when everybody is under siege, all the employees are under siege, does it make the employees bond together more or become less interested in each other? No, they bond together more, so the referrals are unbelievable. So how would you like to put yourself in front of that tidal wave? I mean, first of all, just being in front of the people retiring every year, if they're forcing 8,000 people out every year, that's a good thing. But if they do go under, your career is made. You'll be wealthier than you ever thought you would be in a very short period of time, and you'll be able to retire if you're in front of this group to begin with. So somebody's already guessed who this is, and let me see if I can guess. See, because it's cutting off the names here. Yeah, Dan Rutsky's already guessed who it is. Dan. Because what company is that? Well, we got to go back over here. It's the United States Postal Service. It's the United States Postal Service. Second biggest company in the country, and what's happening to them? 161,000 layoffs. They're shutting postal service centers all over the place. They just shut one here in Rochester, which is a pretty big city, and they still shut it down. They're planning on shutting down a gazillion more. They're laying people off, early retirement. They're cutting jobs and then hiring non-union workers to fill them. So, I mean, this company is under distress. And what is the Congress is saying? They don't even know if there's a big part of Congress that's saying we don't even know if we should have this postal service here anymore. So how would you like to be in front of that? Because here's the thing about postal workers is these guys and gals, are they happy or are they not happy? They are not happy. They are not happy at all. Do you get a cup of coffee for guessing correctly? Yeah, I'll give you a cup of coffee, Dan, for guessing correctly. Dan's wondering because he guessed if he gets a little prize. So these guys and gals are not happy. They're not happy with their job. And they're also not happy with their 401k, which is called a TSP, a thrift savings plan. That's what they call their 401k. There's some things you should know about the TSP. In fact, I found 3 things about the TSP that make the TSP a horrible investment. I'm only going to tell you one right now. I'm going to keep the other 2 secret. But the other 2 are even worse than this one. The first one is, you want to take a guess, guys, on who chooses the funds for the TSP? Who chooses the funds for the TSP? I moved one last week, Peter says. Awesome, Peter. So who chooses the funds for their TSP? Yeah, Peter's saying he moved one last week, and it's simple to move. You don't have to twist these guys' arm. You need to be in front of them in the right place at the right time. A 5-member Congress. Eric got it right. Congress, Chris says. Yep, Congress picks those funds. So how many of you would like your 401k with funds picked by Congress? No way. So once they find that, boom, they're gone. Now, here's what we found. We can get you in front of postmasters. The nice thing about postmasters is they are the hub of every postal region, and they're connected to all the other postal workers around. So they're fantastic referrers. And the great thing about blue-collar workers or gray-collar workers like postal workers is they are highly networked. Guess where they spend their off time? With their buddies from work. Guess where they spend even their holidays? Instead of with their family, they'll spend it with their buddies from work. These people are highly motivated. If you get one, you'll get a dozen. I'll tell you, a guy here last month got a postmaster, moved $250,000. They said, hey, you should talk to my buddy who just retired. They're actually just about half hour from here. They drove. The guy called his buddy. They drove there that very day, and they moved another $330,000. So the guy moved $550,000 in one day because he got in front of one postmaster who wanted to move. And as Peter says, it's easy once you're in front of them to get them to move. So we have a way to get you in front of postmasters. And if you get in front of one, you treat them well, they will all move. I mean, you'll just move right through a whole bunch of them. And we've secured a source of the postmasters that the month they retire, we get their name and their address. The month they retire, we get their name and address. And then we have marketing that's done for you to get you in front of them. Because you don't want to call these guys up. If you call these guys up and say, hey, I just found out you retired, it's going to freak them out. So instead, I've written a 13-piece mailer because with postmasters, with anybody, oh, Missy, you got a question or something? Oh, you actually got turned back on. She's got to mute herself there in a second. Missy? Just a second, guys. Somebody's turned on. So, here's how the 13 pieces go, because we have a bell curve here. How many times, let's get an answer to this. How many times do you have to contact the average person to get a sale, guys? How many times? 7. Good job, Chris and Casey, 7. So that means some people are 1, some people are 14, but the bell curve, the sweet spot of the bell curve is 7. So we have 13 pieces here. 13 pieces that you mail. And the first piece is actually like about a 14-page, easy-to-read document on how you retire from the Postal Service. And then we have all sorts of other pieces. We have postcards, letters, and some of the postcards are about their TSP. And remember those 3 things I talked about that are horrible about the TSP? One of them talks about one of them, one talks about another, and one talks about another. So we give them reasons why they need to leave their TSP. Then we talk about, then there's some sympathetic postcards where we get on their side about, hey, aren't you getting screwed? And there's some, so it's all, and then there's some blatant sales pitches in there too. So we have all sorts of different reasons to contact them. So we have the U.S. Postal Service was crippled by Congress in 2006. That's a sympathetic one. Attention, TSP announces close to $49.2 million mistake. That's one thing, your TSP is horrible. Postmasters can reduce the tax they owe on their TSP withdrawals by up to 46%. That's actually giving them a reason to a sales pitch to move. So they're all different kind of messages to the postmaster until they finally will respond to that. Okay. So are you granting us access to our area when we are signed up with 5Q? Dan Rutsky? Yes. So we'll talk about that here in a second, Dan. Who actually gets this? In fact, we're going to talk about it right now. Because, guys, this is, can you imagine getting in front of all these people who are being forced out, who are being ridiculed by Congress, who are treated as if they're the scum of the earth by the government that hired them? And there's lots of reasons for that, and we go through that. Number 2, that they don't like their TSPs, and as Peter pointed out, it's very easy to move those TSPs. and number 3, and get in front of them the month they retire. Okay? So how many of those would you like to get in front of? And again, a company that has a high likelihood of being gone, or at least a skeleton of itself, just 3, 4, 5 years down the road. How would you like to be in front of those people? I mean, can you ask for a better system than that? You can't. I mean, that is about as cherry as a system as you can get. So as Dan pointed out, you know, how do we, Missy, somebody is turned on because I'm getting all sorts of background information.
I'm not able to find it. Everyone's muted on this end, so.
That's weird.
Yeah.
Okay. So how would we like to be in front of all those people? That's a cherry system. So can we, is it an unlimited amount of people? Are there an unlimited amount of postmasters in your area? Is there an unlimited amount of postmasters in your state? No. Because remember, of those 571,000 employees, or of those 161,000 people who retired, not all of them are postmasters. Only a fraction of those, maybe 6% of those are postmasters. That's still a lot. And then those people get you into those postmasters are networked and get you in front of all sorts of other postmasters, but these are not unlimited. So we can't give this to everybody. So I'm going to have Jeff talk about who will this be offered to then, Jeff?
Yeah, and like Mike talked about, unfortunately, you know, while there are 8,000 people that are going to be retired willingly or unwillingly over the course of the year, if you think of a 12-month year, that means we have hundreds of these things, not tens of thousands and not even thousands. So we only have a limited number of these leads. And time is of the essence. I mean, we want to get in front of these people as soon as they're let go. We can't wait a month or drag our feet, or 3 months, because they can make a decision to go another direction during that time. So we really can't afford to experiment with these leads. And what I mean by that is we're going to give them to the people that are in the area that they're retiring in that are the most capable. So how do we know who's capable or most capable? Well, the only objective way to do that is whoever writes business. The people that write the most business are the ones that are going to get these leads, and we trust that because they write a lot of business that they'll be able to get in front of these people and close the business in a timely manner. So if you think that you're somebody that qualifies, what we would ask you to do is just email us at support@5qgroup.com. And that way, when you email us, we can set up a time to talk, and that gives us a chance to kind of look and see what you've done with us and see if you're a good fit or a good match for this program. So that's kind of who we're looking for, and again, it's because we just don't have a lot of these leads, and time is of the essence, so we just have to make sure that we're filtering and funneling them to the people that are most capable.
So I'm just going to reiterate what Jeff said there, which is that, again, these leads are going to go to the guys that have already produced a ton of business for us at 5Q, because that is how, as Jeff points out, we know that you have a high capability of closing business. If you've never or are barely sending any business to us, then we have no clue on whether you can close business or not. But if you've closed a ton of business with us already, then we know you can close business, and that's who we want to put in front of these postal workers, because we know that if you've already closed a ton of business with us, with other types of marketing, that this is going to be a laydown for you, and you're going to close basically every person, you know, as close as you can get to every postmaster that you get in front of, and you're also going to be able to use those people to network and to get into lots of other people. So guys, unfortunately, we don't have a crystal ball or some way to look into your business and see whether you're good at closing business. The only way we know that you're good at closing business is if you've already closed business, and the only way we know that is if you've closed business with us. So if you've closed a lot of business with us, and this system seems like something you'd like to get into, because remember, you may have to, first, we need to know not only do you want to do business with us with this, but how far are you willing to drive? Do you want all of a state? Do you want half a state? Do you want just your city? Those kind of things as well. So, but the people that should email us at support@5qgroup.com should be those people who have already submitted a lot of business with us, and then we can talk to you about how it might work for you. And again, that's just because we don't want to waste these leads. These are about as good as you can possibly get for the reasons I said. These people are not happy with their job. They're not happy with their 401k. And we got the leads and the names and addresses the month they're retiring. Can't get a better system than that. That's why, as Jeff said, we're not going to waste it. And I will tell you, too, when people come on board, we require a little bit, or with this postal system, we do require a little bit more of you as well. We require you, when you send an ad out, or when you send one of those pieces out, when you send one of these pieces out, that you actually take a picture every week of the front of the envelope with the stamp and email that to us. The reason being, we want to make sure you're sending these pieces out on a weekly basis like you're supposed to. Because if you're not doing that, guess what? We will take the lead away and we'll give it to somebody who will mail these pieces out as well. So just because you've done a lot of business, if you're not willing to do the work, we're going to take that away from you and give it to somebody who's done a lot of business and is willing to do the work. And so when you, every week, if you have 17 leads, we want to see 17 envelopes with the addresses on them and postage on them. And we know that if you've gone that far, that those pieces are going to go out. Because what I don't want to do is give somebody the leads and say, oh, I was busy this week, I'll do it next week. I was busy this week. No. If you want these leads, you need to work them in a timely fashion, as Jeff pointed out. So every single week, we're going to need to see those envelopes with the addresses, with a stamp. Email us a picture of those every single week. If that's too much work for you, then again, don't apply for the postal system with us. So, guys, this is a great opportunity for those guys that are excellent closers. If you're not yet an excellent closer, become an excellent closer. Get a lot of business, because these leads are getting every single month going forward. So just because you haven't submitted a lot of business yet, submit a lot of business, and then you'll qualify for this. I mean, we're looking for guys continually with this. And some guys will do it for a while, then fall off because they don't want to do, walk through the work, or they aren't willing to drive, maybe because they've had a lot of success or whatever it may be. So just because you don't qualify for it now doesn't mean you can't qualify for it in a month, 2 months, 3 months. But we need to see that you can close business before we're going to offer it to you. Okay? So,
there was a couple of questions that came in, Mike. A couple of people are saying, what if I don't have a track record with you because I'm new to 5Q? How do I go ahead and prove myself?
You have to write business. I mean, that comes right down to, we're going to give these to people who are writing business with us. So we have lots of other ways for you to write business with the trip system, with our seminars, etc. And if you write business, then you're going to qualify. If you write business, you're going to qualify. That's how you do it. How many names? Well, that depends on, somebody says how many names in your region. That depends, again, on your region, how many people have already recently retired in your region, how many people are getting. So, again, an average of 8,000 people retiring a year spread out over the nation. Of that 8,000, you're probably talking about maybe, 500 postmasters. But then you can use those postmasters to network out. So I would say that in any one state, we're looking at usually per month, maybe 20 to 40 postmasters in any one state in a particular month. So if we've got, if it's a big state and somebody's not willing to drive, you might only be looking at one person might be looking at 3 leads, and another person who's willing to drive more, who's done a lot of business with us, may be looking at 40 leads. So it depends on your region. It depends on how far you're willing to drive. It depends on a lot of things and how many leads. But you're not going to be getting an unlimited amount of leads. That's why we're only looking for a very select group of people to use the system with.
Yeah, and can I add something there?
Yeah.
It's kind of a good news, bad news thing. The good news is everybody has a post office in their area. So everybody has an opportunity here. The bad news is not every area is laying off or retiring postmasters every single month.
Right.
So we might have a lot of people, they might close a post office here in Rochester, Minnesota, and we might have a ton of leads. But then no one might retire for a couple months. So, everybody has a post office, so this is something that can work for everybody, but the post office isn't retiring people in every post office every month. So it is going to be, a little, it's not going to be a steady flow. Sometimes you're going to have a lot, some months you're only going to have a few.
Yep. But there are people who hate their company, hate their 401k, and you're getting them the month that they're retiring. Somebody said, well, are we the only ones that have the list? Well, this was a guy who actually was retiring from working with the postal system. So we are the only people he gave this list to. We're the only, we have all of his contracts, and we're the only person that he's working with because we have all his contracts. So So as far as I know, we're the only people with this list. And how unique are the leads? They'll ask. Well, that's the thing too. The reason we're only choosing the high performers is because we're not going to. If there's 9 leads, we're not going to give those same 9 leads to everybody in the city. Those 9 leads will go to maybe we'll go 4 to one guy and 5 to another to see how well they work it. And then eventually, the guy who writes the most business, he'll get all 9 leads. We're not going to give the 9 leads to 5 different advisors. They are what do you call them? What do you call it, Jeff? They are
They're unique.
Unique. Thank you. They're unique.
They're absolutely unique. They're unique to you. And the reason is, it wouldn't make sense if you look at that Postmaster marketing system. If they were to get one of those pieces 5 times in a week, then it would water it completely down, and no one would have success. And we don't want that. I mean, we only make money when you make money, so we want to make sure that we're closing as many. We want to make sure you're closing as many of these as you possibly can. So we're making it unique to each individual that picks the lead, and that's why we're being a little particular about who we give them to, because we're only going to give 1 lead to 1 guy. We're not going to give 1 lead to 9 guys and say, have at it.
Which is why we're having you take pictures of the front with the address and the postage on it to make sure you are sending them out, because if you're not, we're going to give them to a guy who is. Because if you don't send it out, they're not going to get anything, which means they're not going to move their money to anybody, or at least not that we're associated with. And I've got another question where it said, will this be available to other federal employees? Yeah, absolutely. In fact, we're working with one guy that actually works with the U.S. Judicial system, so U.S. attorneys. And this same system is very, very easy to change for him. So we've actually changed it for him. So, yeah, if you got lists of other federal employees that are retiring on a monthly basis, well, this guy had the list of the judicial system people who are retiring on a monthly basis. So all we're doing is we've modified it for him. So if you got lists of people who are retiring in the federal system, yeah, absolutely. This system can be very easily modified for those people. Could I get letters sent out to employees I know? Probably not, Bill. I'm sorry. You can't get these to send out to employees you know, because then, like Jeff said, it's going to look really weird if a postal employee gets 2 of these. It's going to look really odd. So I'm afraid that we can't do that. So, guys, this marketing stuff is only for people who we choose for the postal system. So if you think you're interested in this, you think you're qualified, you need to go through support@5qgroup.com. Support@5qgroup.com, so we can look at who's applying, do some research, see how much business you've written with us. So before we have a conversation with you, make sure you're somebody who we think would be a good fit for this system. So that's how you get more information. Go ahead and email. Don't call us. Don't call anybody. The only way somebody's going to talk to you about this is if you email at support@5qgroup.com. Then we can figure out if, and we'll contact everybody back to one way or the other. But that gives us a chance to make sure, do a little bit of research, see how much business you've done with us, see if we think you're a good fit for this system. Okay? So any other questions here?
There was one a little farther up. Should we also offer a seminar?
Well, I don't have a seminar for you. I mean, what I would do is I'd invite them to any of your other seminars that you're doing, yes. But there is no postal worker seminar that I put together, no. But absolutely, you should invite them to other seminars that you're doing, absolutely. So they would just be additional people that you could have come to your regular seminars, because the trip would be something that would be interesting to them. The Take Your Brain for a Jog would be something interesting to them. So, yeah, if you're doing any of the seminars, yeah, absolutely. Or if you have your own postal system seminar, yeah, you could invite them to that. But I have not created one. Why? Because we just talked about it. How many people in a month are going to be available? We're talking about some months 5, some months 40. That's not enough people to do a seminar for. But yeah, absolutely invite them to your regular seminars. Absolutely. Let's see here. In your experience, are they still accumulating or taking immediate income? That differs, because a lot of these postal workers have working spouses, so I can't even answer that. What I will tell you is most of these people are not taking income. They are just rolling it over and saving it for retirement, because they're too young to take it. For a lot of these postal workers are retiring fairly young in their age-wise. They can't afford to retire at 59 or 60 because they didn't make a lot of money and their pension sucks, so they've got to go find another job after they retire. What about letter carriers? We don't yet. Letter carriers are fantastic, Dale. We just don't have a list of the letter carriers. What we're using is the postmaster list to get you to the network into the letter carriers. Combine with Social Security seminar. Yeah, you could combine with Social Security seminar. Absolutely, absolutely. Are they also reaching their group life insurance and personal life insurance? Replacing their? Depends, Mark. It depends on the person. Depends on the person. So he's asking, do they replace their group life or whatever? It depends on the person. Some people think they need life insurance. Some people don't. How many people when they retire are worried about life insurance? Some are. Most aren't. So it depends on the person. So good question, guys. So I'm excited about this. For those of you that qualify, you're going to make a ton of money, and we are eager to get you started on this because we've only probably got, about 10 guys using it right now with good success. So we're interested in getting the rest out there, but we need to see business before we're going to offer this, just because I don't want to waste these leads, guys. So I hope you found this. And Mike, for younger workers, how about Roth conversions? Again, guys, how you move this, well, first of all, no, I said Roth conversions are not going to work. Why won't Roth conversions work with these people? How much money do they make? Yeah, taxes deal, you're right. So they're not going to move it for a Roth conversion because they're going to have to pay a bunch of taxes on it. They just got forced out of their job. They're wondering how they're going to frickin', put their 2 cents together next month. So they're not looking for a Roth conversion. The last thing they're worried about is tax-free. What they're worried about is making it. So they're not going to be looking for additional bills like paying taxes on a conversion. So these are basically TSP is going right into a traditional IRA. That's 90% or 95% of what people are doing, from a TSP into a traditional IRA. Super. So these are the kind of systems, guys, that I love rolling out. But unfortunately, the best systems are very, very targeted. The best systems are targeted. The best systems won't work for everybody because the best systems don't have ungodly amounts of leads. So the reason these systems work is when you find a small group of people, you have access to that lead source, and you come up with a good system to communicate with them. So we'll continue to look for these kind of systems, but this is the system we're working with right now. If you've got a list of names for other federal workers, then you can get a list of, you have a contact in that department or division or bureau or whatever, and you can get the names of people as they retire on a yearly basis, or yearly or monthly basis. Then you should contact us, and we can actually very, very easily modify this for those. But again, guys, not for just one guy, not for 5 guys. What we need is if you had a list of ongoing lists of people that are retiring. That's how we'd be interested in doing that. So I appreciate all you guys. I wish I could roll this out for everybody, but unfortunately, in anything in life, we don't have unlimited amount. If we did, I'd roll it out for everybody. We don't have unlimited, so I'm going to have to hold it to guys that we know can close these leads. But as soon as they get tired of them, we'll be replacing them. As soon as they don't do what they need to do, which is send these pieces out on a weekly basis, we'll be replacing them. So nobody's going to get this written in stone. Every month they're going to be required to follow through like we asked them to follow through, but it's worthwhile for what we're giving them. So I appreciate it, guys, and I hope you have a good rest of the day, and we'll talk to you soon. Again, send those requests to support@5qgroup.com. Thanks, everybody. Have a good day.